Namaskar. Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host 𝙒𝙧𝙤𝙀. Today with Lieutenant General Ravi Shankar, we are going to talk about a couple of things. One is how to make India wean itself away from imports from China. And the other one is the state of Atma Nirbharta in one segment that he was largely a part of much before the phrase Atma Nirbharta was used by the Prime Minister. So both these things will be discussed today with General Ravi Shankar. Let's go ahead and invite him to our program. General Ravi Shankar, namaskar and welcome to PGurus channel.
Namaskar and thanks a lot for inviting me again on your show, Mr. Shriyar. And at the outset, let me wish everyone a very happy Dashera. And Dashera being symbolizes the victory of good over evil, right? And I think you've chosen an appropriate topic
Thank you, sir.
right, on
And
this particular day. Yeah.
yes, thank you, sir. That was more coincidental than anything else, sir. And I saw your article. I think yesterday it was published, and I said, no, iska to hangout banta hai. So that's how I came to the conclusion. And as always, you are very cooperative. You agreed to come online at a day's notice. General Ravi Shankar, you've been a very keen watcher of China. You know them inside out. I think you have a bit of a slideshow that you want to use and walk us through our main imports from China and what are the challenges those things are giving us and how they can be overcome. So please take it away, sir, and the floor is yours.
Yeah, thanks a lot. We all know that our trade imbalance with China is pretty high. Uh, Sometime during the COVID time, the imports from China had gone down, but they have not now. The moment that COVID has taken out, or rather disappeared from India virtually, at least the restrictions, the imports have gone up. And there is a lot of hue and cry as to why are we getting more dependent on China. So I'll put a few figures through and then see where are we going from there. If you can have that presentation. Yeah. In the past 1 year, this basically I'm covering this 8 month period from Jan to August. Uh, we've grown 23% almost year on year. That's hell of a lot of thing. Uh, Interestingly, 65% of our imports are in three groups: electronics, machinery, and organic chemicals, including APIs. We'll touch upon each of this a little later. And if you see, the maximum growth is in mobile phones, telecom equipment, solar cells, electronics. And the last one is important: lithium ion battery. And we are critically dependent on China for articles of everyday use as well for industrial products. Now, the moment electric vehicle comes in, this lithium ion battery and etc. X, Y, Z, and we're going to go back. The import dependence on China will increase. So what are we doing about it? That's the first question which will come up. I think uh, first and foremost, what I would say is, look, if you want your system to grow, you don't have a choice but to import from China. Let me touch on this business of APIs. What is API? Active pharmaceutical ingredients. Those are the basics which are required for your pharmaceutical industry. So what actually we've not got the full picture. You're importing from China, making pharmaceuticals, making drugs, making everything, and exporting it to everywhere else. So to that extent, I am not too worried about APIs. But the point here is, at the turn of the centuries, we were fully self-dependent on everything, including APIs. WTO came, you had equations with China changed, and all your factories which made APIs vanished. They were undercut by China, and you allowed them to happen. Now there is a move already by the government to restart many of these APIs, but it's not going to happen overnight. I suppose it will take another 4 to 5 years before the APIs industry starts working back in India. Even then, we might not hit the 100% mark. We might be at 60% mark, 70% mark. It's going to take time. What's destroyed over 20 years, 30 years won't get built over 5 years, right? It's investment. Even to build a house takes 2 years, 3 years, right? So you're talking of a factory, you're talking of linkages, X, Y, Z. So there is an issue here. The second thing is we have to be clear. When you go in for all these things, the easiest thing is to say, why can't we make everything here in India? We have to see what's the cost benefit analysis. China has paid a heavy price in pollution. Right now, if you start making lithium-ion batteries, you start making all these electronics, everything. What is the cost you're prepared to pay in pollution? Give you an example: the Sterlite factory, right, down south in Tuticorin, that got closed. Why? Because of pollution and other effects. But that made you totally import dependent on copper from China, right? Till that factory was functional, you were export oriented system. So the cost benefit analysis, look, we're not getting into the whole story of the Sterlite story. That's a different story. But I'm just trying to put across a point that there's a cost benefit analysis of whatever you do, right? And if you're going to import from China and export elsewhere and you're making a buck out of it, that's okay. It balances. But the problem is, you should not ever be too dependent on China. To that extent, I think there is already a move afoot, right? We had this productivity linked incentive scheme, PLI scheme. In all these 10, if you see, all these issues are covered. And it's in the initial stages. Any PLI scheme to come good takes 5 to 10 years. It doesn't happen overnight. So for us to expect that, look, tomorrow I'll not be dependent on China is, I think, fallacious to even dream of. It's like a Chinese dream, which will never exist, right? So we'll have to have patience. And I think the government is aware of it. If anything, I only read positive reports about PLI. The next thing, I'm very hopeful about this PLI succeeding. It has to succeed for the simple reason people have money to invest, FDI, right? People don't want to put it in China beyond a point. That's very clear. That's a global sentiment. So the alternatives to come here, and if you're giving them PLI, everything, the investments are coming. That's why you see, amongst all the big economies, it's only the Indian economy which is growing, and the others are all stagnating or recessing, right? In this current global conditions, if your economy is growing at 7 to 8%, it is like 15 to 16% in the good old times. So to that extent, I'm sanguine that things are under control. Yes, there has to be a constancy about reducing, imports from China. I think the government is aware of it. We have to give it time. This might take anything on this, then we can move to the next one.
Yes, sir. Couple of questions, General. One is that there is a possible shortage for raw materials that go into making fertilizers. For instance, potash from Russia and phosphates from China. I didn't see that in the PLI schemes. Is that something that the government is fairly confident of? Do you know?
Yeah, I think so. I think they're confident of it because Ukraine and you see, you're making Ukraine is also involved in this. Ukraine and
Yes,
Russia, you're
yes.
still, the prime minister has done outreach to them. Even if China goes out of the equation, you still have Russia and Ukraine. Part of their revival of their economy, they have to come to you and sell. So I don't see that beyond the point. I don't think it will be a matter of concern. Right. So to that, I think our government has it under control.
The other thing that I saw in your presentation, sir, I just want to bring up the PowerPoint again because I want to see something here. White goods. What are white goods, General Ravi Shankar?
That's a interesting thing. I mean, generally these are the goods which are common day use, which are not covered in other sectors.
You mean like fast-moving consumer goods?
Yeah,
fast-moving consumer goods.
Yeah,
FMCG. Yeah.
FMCG. Right. So that's how it is.
Thank you so much, sir. And viewers, you can send in your questions on this particular program with the hashtag #AskLTGenShankar. And I know it's a little long, but that has to be the way. That's the way it should be. And also, we're going to talk about Atma Nirbharta. And there's a small story that goes behind this. I'm going to set the stage up and let the general take over. Now, when the general was still in active service, he was working under perhaps one of the best defense ministers India has ever had, Manohar Parrikar. And General Ravi Shankar, kind of take us back in memory, timeline, and tell us when you met Mr. Parrikar and how that worked and your contribution in trying to be Atmanirbhar to the extent possible in arms and ammunition, sir.
Yeah, when I took over as the Director General Artillery, that was a time when India had not had any guns for the past 30 years before that. We'd never had it made or imported these 155 guns. Or ammunition, we were short of ammunition. We were short of rocket systems. We were short of many things. So one day, Mr. Manohar Parrikar called me and the vice chief and a few other senior officers and said, "Look, my priority is artillery. A nation cannot be without guns. So tell me what we can do." And so we went over it, and then we decided that we need a few. We said, look, of all the schemes that we had, we narrowed it down to the fact that we could get about 4 guns, uh, make good or ammunition, make good or fuses, right, and things like that. And we made a strategy, and we said, look, where you can't make good immediately, we'll continue with import. You can't straight away say I'll not import. That's the most foolish thing to do, right? We'll continue import, and when the time comes, we'll cut off, and then we'll see how to make things happen and all that. And then he told me, look, the Shankar, this is my priority. Every month you'll come and meet me, and if there's any problems, we'll resolve it. I'll resolve it for you. I said, look, you are giving me a big ask. What we have not done in the past 35 years, you're asking me to push through in 2 years. He said, look, you have full 2 years, and I said, yeah, I can do it, but I need your help. He said, no problems. So then we went about. We had various 4 different type of guns. One was indigenous production. One was a DRDO development design, right? In fact, it was actually 5 guns. One was a upgradation program. One was an outright purchase from USA, and one was a global tender with L&T and the Koreans, and also the Russians were involved at that time. All these were at almost the starting stage. I won't say starting stage. We could see the light, but they were all at a critical stage where they had to be guided through. And our ammunition was actually bad. We were in a very bad shape. So I said fine, and then we started the process, started dealing with people, problems coming up, how to resolve everything. Uh, I mean, bureaucracy will put their point of view, someone else will put their point of view, OFB will put their point of view, X, Y, Z, a lot of problems. So, but what helped me most was this direct interaction with Mr. Parrikar. He had told me every month you come to me. So I used to go uh, first thing in the morning on the day, take an appointment, and he used to call me before the office also opened. I mean, this is the trick. I used to go to him at about 8:30 in the morning when even monkeys wouldn't dare to come into South Block. Look, if you go to South Block, there are a lot of monkeys around. That's why. And they, and the South 8:30, there were no monkeys also to disturb us. So I used to go sit with him. Okay, what happened? So I used to tell him, so this is what happened, and this is where I'm stuck, and this is okay, fine. Uh, he'll note down. I used to say go. I used to go back to my office and sit down for a cup of tea or breakfast or water. And by 10 o'clock, people used to say, "Look, you gave this point to the RM. How do we solve it for you?" So the bureaucracy became, completely aligned to what the two of us were thinking. I was at one end doing things, and he was at another end, pulling the strings. So everyone was on that string in between were working. Not that we didn't have problems, a lot of problems, a lot of pushes, a lot of pulls. There were many people who wanted to short circuit the whole thing, and they'll go and tell the मंत्री जी कि भाई ये होना चाहिए, ये DGRT ये नहीं करने दे रहा है. So they'll ask me, yeah, what are you doing? I used to tell him, this is it, and this fellow is behaving this way. He says, okay, I already wield the danda type, and things started moving. And then he started backing me because, when you're dealing for 4, 5 heavy systems, you're dealing with rocket systems, you're dealing with Russia, you're dealing with USA, you're dealing with XYZ, and you're dealing with big countries. Mega projects. Each project was worth about 5 to 6,000 crores, right? There are a lot of pulls and pressures, there are a lot of financial pressures, there are a lot of other things, there are a lot of competition, and it's a bit of a murky world also. And the only thing, one day someone told me, यार शंकर इतना तुम कर रहे हो, सर कट जाएगा तुम्हारा. I said, look, एक ही सर है, एक ही बार कटेगा. दू- दू- दूसरे बार नहीं कटेगा ना. And I'm very clear what I'm doing, right? And I have given my bank balance to and my latest statement of accounts to who matters. And I said, you can keep noting wherever you want. And I said, I took a call that I'll not go out of the country. Period. I'll not meet anyone other than Indians in my dealing. And if I have to meet this thing, it'll be only on a common thing. No parties, no nothing, zero. I became a monk for 2 years. I mean, not in the sense, I never used to meet anyone socially. Outside, of course, army and, within. I mean, we used to have a lot of parties within, that's a different story. And then we made progress. We made progress towards the end of my tenure. Uh, all programs which we were aiming for, we were able to close it. And they didn't get inducted by the time I left the service, but most of the contracts were on the anvil or signed. Ammunition. Look, the acid test of all this is not my talk. The acid test is, could we face the enemy? If you see in 2014, Mr. Rahul Bedi wrote an article in, I think, either Hindu or Times of India, I don't remember, one of those papers, where he said, this is an artillery in search of guns and an army in search of ammunition. 2014, right? I felt very bad. 2016, when I retired, we had ammunition. 2016, we carried out the surgical strikes. Immediately after the surgical strikes, there was a situation where we were having, some issue with Pakistan, so we had to take stock. If the situation develops into something, can we do the whatever is required to be done? And we found we could. We had made up our ammunition by then. We had made up our ammunition before I left service. Come 2017, if you remember, and Doklam happened. For the first time, we confronted China. And I still remember General Bipin Rawat. Bipin Rawat and I went back a long way. When he was the vice chief and I was still the DGRT, we used to have a discussion. He said, how did you make this ammunition up? I told him XYZ. It's still in the pipeline. We've not made up our ammunition. We need to do more. But come June, July, when the Doklam thing happened, Bipin Rawat was the chief and he had the courage to stand up to China. And I knew our ammunition was made up by then. Because no chief can take the stand if you don't have artillery ammunition in hand, right? And we had made it up. And come Eastern Ladakh, today we are on a pig's back. Believe you me, the bread and butter ammunition. You might not have fancy ammunition, but what you have to defend the country, we have. Now, along with that, the beauty is we sealed the deal for the M777s. Today, the last M777 has been delivered to the army. Right? The K9 Vajra 155mm guns, the delivery has started, it has finished, it has completed high altitude trials, and the army has ordered for 100 more. That's the second. The third is the ATAGs, which are displayed in the Red Fort. That started off the drawing board. And fourth was the Sharang, in which there was a upgunning of old 130 was converted into 155. Very cheap stuff. For about 2 crores, you got an upgunned gun. We've already got about, I think about 200 of them. They've been inducted into the thing. And then the Dhanush, the first regiment as Dhanush has gone in. So you see, in a matter of about 6 years now, 2016 I left, now 2022, the scene has changed. Just the other day, the DAC ordered for Pinaka Extended Range, which I started the program when I was there, right? Uh, the indigenous WLRs, weapon locating radars, which is a huge thing. I mean, people don't know about it. It's not in the news, but it's a huge thing. The Americans came to and they said, "How did you guys make it?" We said, "Look, that's a different story." So, I mean, let me give you a story within a story. We bought the WLRs, weapon locating radars. When we got it, we bought the Mark III version. Okay, the Americans were having the Mark 7 version, the latest version. They didn't give that to us; they gave us the older version, and we knew it, and we started developing the latest one. When we were inducting our own Swati weapon locating radars, the Americans came back to us and said, "We'll give you the Mark 10. We're just inducting them to the army." I said, "I'll give you the Mark 11. Why didn't you buy my Swati radar?"
Sir,
Okay.
Mark 10, Mark 10, Mark 11 are all in hypersonic range now.
No. It's not Mark. MARK. Mark 10.
Oh,
Mark 1, Mark 2, Mark.
MARK. Got it.
Okay. There is a 10th or 11th version of
Okay,
that
okay.
radar, upgraded. Right? Americans are great in this. They start with the system and they keep upgrading it. It never becomes old. They keep upgrading it. Right? So I said, I'll give you the latest one. And today I was just speaking to the DGRT who's now in chair. He says, I don't want the American systems, Indian systems. So, and this was a time when Atma Nirbharta was there, but it was not a clarion call the way it is today. Right? A lot can be done in Atma Nirbharta. So this is my story. Now, but we can you have questions about today. We can talk.
Yes, indeed. First thing is that for viewers who missed out General Ravi Shankar's recollections about CDS Bipin Rawat, there is an episode. We'll try to put it in our description section so you can go on and look at how General Ravi Shankar and General Rawat, more or less, they were contemporaries, maybe 1 or 2 years off, but they've had a lot of interaction over the years. It's a very fascinating story. Now, General Ravi Shankar, all this stuff, when you say that we are doing indigenously, the metallurgy, the metals, the raw materials, is there anything there that could be, critical, which has to be imported from somewhere? Could be Ukraine, could be Russia, could be China. Mota mota, sir.
Zero. You don't need to import anything. You might have to import raw materials. You have to import parts, but that's normal. No, that's not nothing critical. See, criticality, if you look at Atmanirbharta, criticality lies in technology. It doesn't lie in
Yes.
material. Okay. It lies in technology. And the numbers which we need for, you know, amount of raw material you need for the numbers you want in defense are very small compared to what you need for other sectors. In the overall scheme of things, you need very little. So criticality is not there. You need technology. You need criticality is technology. Actually, that's my thrust line today. Even now, I'm an IIT. I'm not interested in competing with any public sector undertaking or any this thing. I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in creating technology. If you can't create technology, you're out of the equation.
Yes. Couldn't agree with you
What
more, sir.
what we lack in India is technology. And if I have a bone to pick with the current dispensation, and I had this bone to pick not today, even earlier. Okay, I was an outlier when I went in for making technology. Is that we are not investing in technology. Technology needs investment. You invest in technology today, you will get technology 5, 10, 15 years back down the line. You might not get it, but there'll be an offshoot somewhere else. Unfortunately, today we are not investing in technology, and that is my biggest worry. Why are we not investing in technology? Because many reasons. One, I don't think our leadership at national level understands this. They're looking for far too many instant results. The bureaucracy is just ignorant about it. And I can assure you this, right? The armed forces officers don't have the patience to wait for that technology to fructify. because for them it's transactional. They have to defend the border today, right? So whatever they want, they say, look, I need item. I couldn't care a damn where it comes from. So there is no body which puts this together, and the DRDO is malfunctioning like nobody's business. I mean, this is endemic. Or OFB has been broken up. I think something similar has to be done for DRDO. Otherwise, they'll not deliver. Right? It is not enough for them to deliver one missile and one tank and one. Even the tank after 30 years, what's the use of getting a tank? This Tejas has come. It's come good, but it has come good after 40 years of this thing. So, are we getting it in the right time frame? We're not. Are we getting in the right quantity? We are not. Do we have the right technologies? We're not. Right? What have you done to ensure that the technology goes through? You're not. You're not. Have you tapped your own human capital? No. That's my problem.
General Ravi Shankar, speaking of Tejas, if I remember correctly, I mean, I could be off a little bit. In the early 90s, when India decided that it shall make Tejas, it didn't matter which coalition government was in power. They managed to still fund the Tejas program. 5,000 crores or something like that was the annual budget. And most of the work was happening in HAL, Bangalore. I remember that because the going rate for an engineer working on the Tejas program was 15,000 rupees a month. It was a princely sum, and other engineers were struggling for 5,000. Just wanted to tell you that at least, the Devagowdas and the Gujrals, at least the Tejas program was always, they found the money for that. I don't know if it ran into rough weather after that. It did take a lot longer.
Look, it's not a matter of funding. Funding is something which I think every government, irrespective of which government it was, has, to be fair, they have invested in all these programs. Investment in a program is not the key in developing technology or a system. Having an insight into the technology is what we lack. And this is where the bureaucracy comes in, right? Our bureaucracy has not just been technical enough. You get a guy who doesn't understand technology and you put him in the chair, either in whichever key appointment you have, he is going to, look at it bureaucratically, right? What he says is right. A lot of issues were involved. Aeronautical Development Authority was involved, and many things. But the fact is, we didn't invest in technology. The guys whom we had, we couldn't put them through. Let me take an example. It was only a person like Abdul Kalam who brought the technology from ISRO into DRDO and made it flower, and the missile development took off. Because at that point of time, we were under a missile technology control regime. We didn't get anything, so we had no choice. And the environment was good enough, and we put together, and the man was there. In other things, we didn't have this leadership in technology. We didn't invest in it, so we are stuck. Right? Basically, we are stuck in the Tejas for the engine, the Kaveri engine. Right? So, why we didn't this thing is a different story altogether. But ultimately, it comes because we lacked technology. Okay, and in fact, that's why I'm also looking at, like, I've started this thing recently called the Center for Ammunition Research and Development and Ammunition Technology in IIT. We've just started it, right? Why are we starting it? Because we need to get technology, and to make technology happen, you have to do it from grassroots level, and that is why we lacked technology for this Kaveri engine or for that matter the Tejas engine or many things. You don't have an academic program for defense, and that academic program, only one institute, the defense DIIT, was making people teaching this. That had no connection with the labs, right? In the real sense, the way it is, and that was not a continual program. It was not the thing that our system was disjointed. It still is fragmented. I want to create that system. In US, that's not the way things happen. In advanced countries, that's not the way things happen. So you need to have fundamental study about it. You need to have fundamental research about it. You need to have the industry as part of that. You need to have the user as part of that. All these guys have to come together, and you have to have multidisciplinary approach to put things together. And that's what we are doing. Why are we doing it? Because we've got hold of certain technologies. I mean, good thing is we got hold of technologies. Where did you get these technologies from? I went to the army and said, let's forget about whatever you're doing, you continue. I want you to invest minuscule amount in tomorrow's technology. They invested. And that technology, we've come to a level where it's given us confidence to take off. We are at the embryonic stage. Now we'll prosper. It might take 15, 20 years, but I'm sure 20 years down the line, we'll be absolutely self-dependent on and Atma Nirbharta on ammunition technologies. When you say ammunition technologies, it might sound funny, but you're talking of unmanned technologies, you're talking of robotics, you're talking of AI, you're talking of machine learning, you're talking of additive manufacturing, you're talking of startup ecology, you're starting of so many things, design, development, right? It could be loitering systems, it could be missile systems, it could be basic gun ammunition, everything. That's a huge packet. We're doing it. Let's see where it goes. I'm hopeful.
Yes, indeed. And that was a very fascinating journey down memory lane for the last few years of what the army has been trying to do. I shouldn't say armed forces in trying to become self-reliant, Atmanirbhar. General Ravi Shankar, we have a few questions for you, sir.
Yes,
and let's
please.
start the questions, please. While the questions are being lined up, may I request all of you to like, share, and subscribe to our program and also click on the bell for notifications. The first question is Bharani Chandar wants to know what is the current update on Agniveer?
Yeah, we're talking of technology and he's taken off on Agniveer. Okay. But be that as it may, the Agniveers are coming. There's no doubt about it. Let's not have any doubts. I've had an interaction with a lot of people, right from the top of the hierarchy to the bottom, guys who are actually training these chaps. Mm, the, there are issues with the Agniveer system, right? It is actually, even now, it's not something great. It has to be modified. There is a good thing. That's the bad part of the story, right? It's not a good scheme. The good part of the story is people are aware of it, and we have time for 3 to 4 years before we set it right. So there is already a saying, look, let's first roll it out because we'll have some problems in rolling it out. And as it gets rolled out, we'll come to problems. We probably will take a call at some benchmark time, right, at some waypoint, and we'll start amending, right, and things. My view is that, look, I was one of the most vocal critics of this. I wrote I was very critical about this, and I didn't spare my words. But at the end of 3-4 articles where I was very critical, I started giving solutions also for it. To me, it made great sense that the other day I was speaking to a very senior officer in Army headquarters who told me, look, sir, I've got all your articles on my table and I'm aware of what you have spoken. We are very conscious of the fact that we have to modify the scheme, but first our struggle is we have to roll it out, which is a fair thing, right? We all commit mistakes. It's a new thing which needs to go through in some form. It needs to go through in a sensible form. It was trying to be rolled out in an insensible form. I'm glad that things are getting corrected. So that's where the Agniveers lie. I'm quite hopeful things will stabilize out. Yeah.
Nagarajan Srinivasan wants to know now the Indo Pak clash is not limited to subcontinent, with Turkey and Pakistan supporting Azerbaijan and India supporting Armenia, supplying Pinaka to that country. Your views, sir?
Yeah, I don't think we should get involved with all this because this is not our fight. Let Pakistan and Turkey keep supplying whatever they want to do with Azerbaijan, and we have just sold Pinakas to Armenia. It is not a support. It is not. It's not a proxy war between India and Pakistan and Turkey between going on. It's their thing. Let them do it. I don't think we should see beyond that.
Next question from Devbrat Bhaduri. Any specific factors to which China imports can be attributed to? What are the reasons the China imports increase so much?
Oh well, look. I told you the why we have uh, had to import from China was for 20 years we slept. We just slept. As simple as that. Our direction of economy was somewhere else, and China was going in some of this thing. We became dependent on China, so we have no choice. Today, your imports from China have gone up for the simple reason that they are giving you raw material, except in electronics. There is and even there, like the the low end mobiles we have banned, right, in India. Why? Because you are able to replace them. After all, the common man on the street wants a low end mobile. He doesn't want a high end Apple i14, right? He can't afford it in any case. He can't afford it the whole year's pay. So he wants a small mobile which is cheap. And the Chinese were offering it to him and he took it. It was good for us. It was okay. That's gone now. Why? Because your PLI scheme is coming good. Someone is making cheap mobiles. They have an alternative. So it's a uh, neat thing. Then the second thing is I told you pollution. 2015, 16, 17, we were exporting copper through the Sterlite plant. But pollution issues came up, all those problems came up, that plant had to be closed and you became import dependent. Where did you get the import from? China. APIs, I've told you. Turn of the century, APIs was in India. I'm only reiterating what I said earlier. So there were very clear reasons. Today you have to, uh, you know, get out of that mold, and it'll take time. It'll take 4-5 years. Yeah.
Viewers, no more questions, please. We have quite a few questions for the general to answer, so I don't think we're going to take any more new questions. Thank you very much. Next question from Nagarajan Srinivasan again. Is surrounding the dragon underway with Philippines buying BrahMos and India extending the line of control to Vietnam for the purchase, I think line of credit to Vietnam
Credit,
for the
yeah.
purchase of arms?
Yeah, I think so. There's no doubt about it. And it is not a unitary surrounding the dragon. There's a plan. You can see this plan. Containment of China is probably an international requirement, and that is being done through the Quad. Your deal with Philippines might be 1-to-1. Your deal with Vietnam could be 1-to-1. Vietnam was always your entry into the South China Sea. After all, say 5-6 years back, they give you concessions to explore for oil in South China Sea also. Okay, and that was a bone of contention with China even then. So it is not you who you had the entry there. Philippines, you always had good equations. You had good equations with Japan. You always your equations with South Korea have been on the upswing. Okay, even I will put it even Malaysia and Indonesia. So it's not this two. So you have been having good equations with all of them, while China has been improving there. There is no doubt about it. But with the Quad coming in and the Americans, US, Japan, and Australia also getting into the act, this has increased. So containing China is not a unitary action; it's a collaborative action. China is too big to be controlled. Look, let me put it this way: now we are all talking of containing China. Have you ever thought, can USA be contained? Why can't USA be contained? Is there a country which can contain USA? You can't. Why? It's too big. It won't take one. It'll take 2 Chinas or 3 Chinas to contain USA. Similarly, China is a big country. Just one country who can't contain China. It'll take 4-5 countries with a lot of heft to contain China. And that's happening. Yeah.
Srinivasan Iyer wants to know, do we have an indigenous artillery system like the Stinger that works to shoot down low-flying targets below the SAM's range?
Sam, surface to
Air missiles. Yeah.
air missile. Yeah, we have. That's being worked. 𝙤𝙬𝙤𝙬, right? It's called 𝙤𝙬𝙤𝙬. That's a very short-range air defense system that's being developed. We don't have one of our own. It's under development. They've done some firing. DRDO came out with the thing that they fired, but then whatever DRDO says, I'll take it with a lot of salt, because they have to fire and they say it's ready for induction. Okay, what the performance? That's their habit. You can't help it.
Silicon Valley culture, sir.
Yeah, that's okay. That's part. Maybe they fit. They should be relocated there. Uh, but what I know is we are doing some reasonably good progress there.
Next question from Srinivas Kambampati. How do we become Atmanirbhar in higher education research? How do we retain talent in Bharat?
Well, I think you have to get. That's a very good question. In fact, actually, this is the grassroots question, and this is something which we have completely missed out. Unless our higher education system is good, unless we have the capability of retaining the talent which we have, we will not succeed. Let's not have any doubts about it. Today, if USA is succeeding, it is on the back of a lot of Indian talent. Okay, and we produce them in IITs, or IITs produce the real workforce of US technology, and we don't have a system through which you can harness that technology or that education. Okay, we don't have focused courses which go into these technologies. Right now, even if that chap does something on that technology, you don't. What is his use for? You make him very good on a particular technology. Give him a PhD, top of the shack. Tomorrow he'll go and sit in Microsoft. We don't have a program which takes a guy from his youngest, the moment he enters IIT till he retires. How do you employ him? And look, there's a major problem in this. It is not with the IITs, it is not with the government, it is with all of us. When we send, this is a fact, 90% of our students who come in for BTech, they are fired up from home. The parents are more interested where he'll get a good placement, where he'll get a good job. And their thing is, will he get, say, 2 crores, 3 crores, good job outside, abroad, USA, Japan, Germany? Can he go there? A guy who's barely out of school, 18, 19 years old, who can't earn 50 rupees for himself, he can't spend 25 rupees on his own. You're giving him a dream of 2 crores and you're pushing him into it. He burns out very fast. Okay. So we have a fundamental problem with ourselves. It's not others. Look, and I'm being very serious, this is an actual problem. The number of stressed students I come across is huge. There's a marked difference between our BTech students who are looking for a job, he does mechanical and engineering, and tomorrow he does coding for some.
Yep.
What's the use of his doing mechanical engineering in the best institution of the country and then doing coding for some buffoon in San Francisco? Right? And
Sir, you're giving me a new name.
no, I'm not talking of you. There are so many things, right? So we have a problem in-house, and that problem is something which we need to solve. That is where, and it starts at home. Okay. Yeah.
Yes, indeed. Next question, please. Raghuram Chadalavada wants to know, sir, how can you bypass the great Indian bloated bureaucracy?
Look, you can't bypass the bureaucracy. Let's be very clear. Every country needs its bureaucracy. Every country needs its bureaucracy. There is no country which can function without a bureaucracy. Okay. You don't bypass the bureaucracy. The government has to make the bureaucracy responsive. Right? And they have to depoliticize the bureaucracy. The government, you see, what happens in our bureaucracy, which is a very strange thing, is that, you see, let me put it across, say, in the armed forces. Who is responsible for the defense of the country? The Prime Minister and the
Cabinet
defense
and so
minister,
on.
yeah, cabinet and all. They are the elected representatives. You have elected them so that they can go and defend your country and uphold the constitution, which says constitutionally defend the country. Who is responsible to execute this defense? The armed forces, because it's a constitutional mandate for the armed forces to defend the territorial integrity and sovereignty of the nation. Where is the bureaucratic role in this? He is to facilitate both of them. Okay, that's his role. But does he do that? He becomes the conduit between these two people and becomes the kingpin. Why does he become the kingpin? He is not, look, every IAS officer is as nationalistic as you and I are. I have no doubt about him. He becomes the conduit because the selected or the appointed or the elected minister does not have domain knowledge. And he is not interested in learning domain knowledge. He is only interested in being political. This is not to respect to this defense minister. I go back and I can quote so many of them. Okay. And the armed forces guy, he doesn't know how to go about dealing with the bureaucracy. You know how to deal with the bureaucracy will deal with you well. You don't know how to deal with the bureaucracy, they'll become an impediment. Okay. So this is a strange triangle. In other countries, the bureaucracy helps the two, the armed forces and this thing. Here, our bureaucracy dictates both. Personally, I've had no problem with the bureaucracy. Why? Classic case which I told you. I was one-to-one with the minister. The minister knew what I wanted. I had to tell the minister what I wanted, and we were successful. The bureaucracy helped us. That was the ideal situation. When things don't happen, it's the most unideal situation, and 90% of the time, the worst thing happens. I've had fantastic output from the bureaucracy. In fact, I'll put it this way: without the bureaucracy, I couldn't have succeeded. They were the guys at times when I got stuck, they used to say, "So why don't we do it this way?" I mean, there's a better way of doing it. Fine. I didn't know the rules and regulations. No one taught me the GFR. Right? They could come. Why? Because ideas were clear, intent was clear. The politician and the military man knew what to achieve. We had laid down the line, you bloody well do this, and it came. So that clarity of thought has to come. If that clarity of thought comes between the political hierarchy and the military man, the bureaucracy is no more bloated. You need that bloated bureaucracy. If that isn't there, the bureaucracy will, will play its role the way it is playing now.
Venki Pinnamaneni wants to know, sir, is private sector being encouraged in R&D and production of rocket artillery ammunition by collaborating with the end user?
Look, the intent is there because that was the policy that 25% of what is given to DRDO will be given to academic institutions and private industry for research. But so far, it has been 1 year. There are no guidelines. We don't know how to get that money. We don't know what's the requirement. The private industry has absolutely, let me take it, every private chap will tell, oh, I know how to do research and development. He doesn't know how to do research and development in India. They don't invest in research and development. That's the way our private sector is built. Money oriented, return oriented. I don't blame them because they have a board to answer, they have a balance sheet to maintain, and they have their shares on which their pay everything depends. They have to get their orders. In this, they don't have time for R&D. Our R&D is unlike, say, the British R&D or the
American
R&D. How did this AstraZeneca and this Covishield come up? Who invested in it?
Trump gave them a $2 billion each grant And he said
Yeah,
that you will subsidize the thing for vaccines. Yes.
vaccines. As simple.
Yeah.
You have to pump prime the R&D through people. You'd call that guy, set up a lab. I want XYZ technologies and do it, and it will be done. Okay, it's not as if we can't do it. We can do it. Um, if we are, you can run one of the most successful vaccination programs in the world and eradicate COVID. You can do that also. Unfortunately, our focus is somewhere else.
Viewers, if you want to understand what priming the pump means, I don't know how many of you have grown up in villages. I have. And what happens is you
Oh,
have
very
to
much
hand
so.
pump. You have a hand pump that needs to pump water from underground. And to get the pressure, you have to take a glass of water
What I
and
put
pour
it
it
on
first to
top.
build the pressure. And then you start furiously pumping. Then at some point it will catch. You get a lot of exercise. And then it starts pumping out the water from underground. So thank you, General. Next question, please.
Are we
Pratima
going to?
Bhatt.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
go ahead, sir.
Yeah, are we going to be run by a military industrial complex there? That's the dream. That's a faraway dream. We don't have one military industrial complex, so let's make it first. I don't think we'll ever get there. Yeah,
Devbrat Bhaduri wants to know, has India been able to manufacture any good quality handguns like Beretta, Colt till now?
no, we don't. We've not done it. See, it also there's also a thing that in our country, mm, everyone is not allowed to take arms and ammunition the way it is in US. In US, you
Yeah.
can go and buy a gun off the store, like you buy a brinjal. That doesn't happen in our country. You need a license X Y Z. So it's a very restrictive environment. So that is why you don't have an industry to back it up. Yeah.
Mandar Karnik wants to know, what are the general problems in unified tri-service command? Is it necessary for war fighting?
Yeah, there are a lot of problems because for the past 70 years, we've never had something called a tri-service command, except for the Andaman Nicobar command for the past decade or so. And we're not used to it, right? And our political hierarchy has never thought of it, despite the fact that um, the Kargil review committee did say we should have a CDS and we should have joint commands and theaters and all that. For some reason, again, it comes down to the ignorance of the political system. And the bureaucrats have taken advantage of this to say, look, let's not have it. There is also a fear, latent fear amongst the politicians. If you give too much power to the army man or the military man, he'll take over the country tomorrow. And that fear is fed in by vested interests. So this has never happened. But let me tell you, if you don't have tri-service commands, unified tri-service commands, uh, we're going to suffer in future. You can't fight a war with China, army fighting its own war, air force fighting its own war, and navy fighting its own war. It has to be together.
Next question, please. Vivek Manjeshwar wants to know, why is our AK-203 stuck? Why Russians didn't start early? Did they want to hike the price, sir?
I really don't know. I know that there are problems in negotiation. I really don't know the intricate details. So I won't hazard a guess in this.
Next question, please. Palanivel wants to know, sir, your take on F-16 technical assistance to Pakistan.
There are angles to it. US will give. US will not let Pakistan off the hook. If they let Pakistan off the hook, they'll go to China, Pakistanis, and they'll go completely towards China. So they'll not let Pakistan off the hook. Um, Afghanistan still remains a problematic entity. After all, if you've seen, there are a lot of killings going on in Afghanistan. It's still unstable, and you still need Pakistan. Pakistan itself might suffer because of that. That's a different story. So you still need Pakistan. So the US will go for Pakistan, and Pakistan is very clear. Whatever help it wants to give, it will give to USA. But the demand is very clear out of Pakistan: arm me against India. Look, everyone has his end, and I think in US has taken this as a case to say um, we'll help Pakistan out to remind India not to go towards Russia. So there is a whole lot of. In fact, at 10 o'clock, Adi, Achint, and I are going to discuss this because we are in a quadrilateral: China, India, Pakistan, and USA. There is a
Right.
new shift going on. Okay. Yeah, it's a fact. If you look at it, the equation between China and Pakistan is not the same as before. The equation with China and India is not the same as before. So is with this thing. Everything is shifting. So it's in a very fluid situation. It's part of this. Yeah. Yeah, this is a fair question. Ukraine war has revealed how integrated battle groups are key to modern warfare and how trained and integrated are our tri-services to carry out coordinated strikes. First and foremost, Ukraine war has revealed how integrated battle groups are key. But the Ukraine war has been fought largely disintegrated. Okay. Russia is suffering because of its disintegrated approach. That's the lesson. That's the lesson. Okay. And why Russia has not been able to make good is because it didn't have an integrated plan. Or if it did have an integrated plan, it didn't know how to put across things. So we need to learn from that. Yeah.
Thank you very much, General Ravi Shankar. And it was a fascinating conversation. I didn't know how the last hour went. Viewers, I'm sure you felt the same way. Please do send in your comments and also like to share this with share this with all your friends and relatives who are following what exactly is happening. General has shed light on a lot of things, and you're gaining a wealth of information listening to the general. Thank you very much, sir, and as always, looking forward to our next hangout. And do tune in at 10 o'clock on Adi Chint's YouTube channel.
Defense talks, yeah.
And
Defense talks.
defense talks, and that is usually the tip of the spear. I mean, that's where the first things happen, and then it slowly permeates into other channels. So looking forward to that also, General Ravi Shankar. Namaskar.
Thank you. Thanks a lot and namaskar.